Mali's strongman leader is now officially the country's president. The Constitutional Court named Colonel Assimi Goita in the role 4 days after the arrest of the former Prime Minister and transitional president, a second military coup in just 9 months. Following the fresh upheaval, the African Union suspended Mali. The Economic Community of West African States also decided to suspend Mali from its 15-nation union. Suspensions all round, but so far no sanctions. The two organisations are pressing for Mali's military leaders to stick to the transition schedule agreed on after the coup in August last year. This schedule would see elections organised in February 2022 and a return to civilian rule. But the ruling junta already appears to be managing expectations.
I think that objectively, 9 months is not enough time to achieve all the work we have to do to arrange stable, credible elections that are not subject to any dispute.
Facing international pressure, the new president is looking for allies at home. He has turned to the June 5th movement, a key group in the toppling of President Keita in August 2020, but sidelined from power ever since. A leading figure of the movement, Choguel Maïga, is set to be named Prime Minister by Colonel Goita, who welcomed Maïga and others for talks this week.
He particularly insisted on the need to bring Malians together to have a sacred union, a broad-based consensus for the success of the transition.
Meanwhile, hundreds of people demonstrated in the capital Bamako to show their support for Colonel Goita. After a week of chaos, the worst of the volcanic eruption in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo now seems to be over. Mount Nyiragongo volcano did not erupt a second time, and the after-tremors that shook the city of Goma and ripped cracks in its streets are becoming less frequent and less intense.
The situation is under control. It is serious, but it will not get out of hand.
People have warily begun trickling back to Goma, even if the official advice remains to stay away. Around 400,000 people out of a population of 600,000 had fled their homes. The chaotic evacuation on the 27th of May followed an order by the government, whose management of the crisis is facing increasing criticism. The government's main task now is handling the humanitarian fallout of the mass evacuation. Here in Sake, a town to the west of Goma, some 120,000 people are living in temporary shelters. The top priority is access to clean water, especially here in a region where cholera is widespread.
The Congolese government must bring us products to purify this water in order to avoid diseases.
According to the UNHCR, 350,000 people are currently in need of emergency humanitarian assistance. Countless parents have been left distraught once again in Nigeria following a new mass student kidnapping. It's an all too familiar sight, families demanding action to secure the release of their children, this time taken from a school in the central town of Tejina.
I appeal to the government, they should try by all possible ways to protect our peoples for us, our children for us. We cannot say anything. They tried with the effort that they made so far. And we are hoping they are going to try harder to bring back our children successfully.
Kidnappings targeting educational institutions are on the rise in Nigeria, where gangs have abducted more than 700 children and teenagers since December. On this occasion, the target was a private Islamic school. The attackers took 136 of around 200 students. These kidnappings are yet another challenge facing the country's security forces, who are also battling a more than decade-long jihadist insurgency in the northeast. Germany this week acknowledged for the first time that it had committed genocide in Namibia in the early 1900s. Namibia's government welcomed the move as a first step, though leaders of the indigenous Herero and Nama people are demanding more. Referred to by some as the first genocide of the 20th century, German colonial settlers killed tens of thousands of Herero and Nama between 1904 and 1908. Germany's acknowledgement came with the promise of €1 billion in financial support to descendants of the victims over 30 years.
Each winter, hundreds of pink flamingos make their home here. Their annual pilgrimage brings them to the heart of Tunis, the Sijoumi lagoon. 100,000 birds of nearly 100 different species gather to make this one of North Africa's biggest wetlands. But it's also a vast dumping ground. Waste accumulated over decades of construction projects is throwing the ecosystem off balance. The government has proposed a regeneration project, but experts worry it won't be enough.
We, as the Friends of the Birds Association, are in general not against the development project. However, we are against the version that was presented and accepted, which does not consider all the ecological specificities of the site.
Under the proposed project, the lagoon will be dug out and deepened. Activists argue this move will threaten the habitats of some native species.
The ducks, which are surface ducks, will not be able to find food. As a result, they will no longer be able to stay in this wetland area, nor will certain wading birds, such as pink flamingos.
The lagoon can no longer absorb rainwater like it once did. Flooding has become more common. Around 1.8 million cubic meters of solid waste sits at the bottom of the lagoon, preventing its normal function.
The lagoon is being filled in daily and is shrinking. There are also old and unregulated dump sites. If we don't do anything, it'll disappear.
The World Wildlife Foundation has warned against the retreat of Tunisian wetlands. Their disappearance makes the country more vulnerable to dramatic climate events such as floods, droughts, and storms.
By preserving these spaces, we will really minimize the impact of these phenomena in the future, and we will protect our wetland, but also all the people living around it.
A few decades ago, hardly anyone lived here. Today, half of Tunis's residents live around Sijoumi Lagoon. Left unchecked, this creeping urbanization could wipe out the wetland altogether.